Hello and welcome to another artist conversation hosted by Sheba Arts as part of our Celebrating Diversity Festival. I'm joined by Parham Ghalamdar. Parham is a painter, animator, researcher and curator based in Manchester. He's currently studying painting masters at the Manchester School of Art. For the Celebrating Diversity Festival, Parham has created Situation Number One, which is an anti-narrative animation film which has been created in collaboration with Kaveh Soory. Welcome, Parham. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Thank you for having me. This is great.
Great. Could you tell me a bit about what inspired you to create Situation Number One?
Yeah, sure. So I think the basic inspiration for this piece that sparked the journey was when I think I read the Capitalist Realism book by Mark Fisher, and Mark Fisher talks about all different aspects of capitalism today, but there was something really interesting in there for me that, Fisher was saying that, capitalism constantly produces disaster to survive. And so it's kind of predictable that another disaster is just around the corner, and it makes this feeling that everything is kind of scripted around you. You just don't know what form it's gonna take, but it's definitely gonna happen. And when I was reading that book, I was making some drawings of really absurd, ridiculous kind of scenes that something disastrous is happening, maybe. So I kind of started to make very short animations with drawings, and then I started to collaborate with Kaveh Soory, and Kaveh Soory made the music for it, and he engineered the sound and everything. And so that was a basic idea for it. But then I wanted to kind of produce something that is kind of keeping the audience in a kind of suspended situation, as if you're waiting for something, right? That frustrating, disappointing moments that you're anxious and something might happen any moment. And so I was reading about techniques of storytelling, and the story that we all know it, the Arabian Night, which is basically the wrong name for it actually. It was called, the original name was 1001 Nights, and so in that story, Shahrazad is telling a story every night, telling a story for the king, and she keeps the punchline for tomorrow. So she makes sure that the king is not gonna kill the storyteller, is not gonna kill her. So this idea of episodic storytelling, with keeping the punchline suspended in another episode, was really interesting to me. And suspense is a technique for saying, it is a technique of promising, right? Suspense promises you that there is a secret to the story, and if you keep reading the story, if you keep staying with me, the author, I'll promise you to tell you that secret, right? And I was thinking, what if I don't tell that secret to the audience, and just keep making suspended scenes with no punchline whatsoever, keeping this structure open until an infinity. And so I started to make things, and I started to go on, which is a very strange way of making, because there is no storyboard to it. Like, I was making for next 30 seconds, like it's ridiculous, and I can still expand the animation. So that was a basic idea of it, telling and keeping a situation in suspense and trying to portray frustration, right? That was a basic idea of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting about the suspended stories. I was reading Augusto Boal, who writes about theatre of the oppressed, and it kind of that the idea of like catharsis and how
Yeah,
kind of in traditional theatre, which is kind of elite or powers that be, there's kind of that the catharsism. So you
yeah,
go on this
yeah,
journey as a spectator, which kind of creates a passivity because you've
yeah,
artistically journeyed, but you've actually not done anything, and you can just go home. So I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
it's so interesting what you're saying about the just maintaining that suspense and not
yeah.
resolving it.
No,
Yeah,
it's exactly the opposite of having a catharsis. But so it's yeah, and then it's ridiculous. What was so interesting for me was that it became more and more relevant to the current situation right now. Like at the beginning of it, that statue of Lenin, you know, you don't know whether it's being taken down or built up, and and I I love that scene. And like anyone who saw the animation, everyone were like, yeah, "Come on, it's put it there. No, it's taking."
yeah,
Like everyone waiting, we're waiting for something, and I loved it because you know, and it became so relevant. Like today, you know, taking down these statues of colonialist figures, or you know, that image of a missile or a jet fighter. Like I was thinking that, you know, the other day I was thinking that, you know, like right now with about what happened in Beirut, and you know, I what I was telling my friends was that, you know, it's wait for another one. There's another explosion like that around the corner, just around the corner. There's so many ridiculous situations, right? Just like Beirut, all around Middle East, massive fuel tankers all around Tehran. Just wait for it, and you know, and it's also maybe a part of my survivalist working class mentality as well, that you know, I'm always preparing myself mentally, preparing myself for something worse to happen, and like it's locked in my DNA. I can't do anything about
yeah.
it. uh, so yeah, so it's ridiculous that, you know, it's yeah, that was, yeah,
I think like because when I was watching it, I think I had similar thoughts with the statue of kind of what went down in Bristol with the Colston,
yeah,
and kind of different things with different parts of it. And I think that's something really exciting about
mm,
this non-narrative aspect, is that, like you've said, there are patterns of capitalism, and the
yeah,
disaster is a pattern. And so kind of maybe if you watch this animation again in 10 years time, that man with the aeroplane face would be someone else, but it would still
yeah,
be, within the context that, yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting to see those patterns.
mm, mm, yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's, yeah, in 10 years time, I don't know, that could be a I don't know, the portrait of a politician selling firearms, and I don't know, like I'm just
Mm-hmm.
out of my from top of my head. So like it's yeah, it could be open for interpretation in so many ways, but you know that it's talking about a political military kind of disaster in a vague form that could take any shape. Yeah,
Nice. Um, so the piece was a collaboration between
yeah.
yourself and Kaveh Soory. How did you find working collaboratively? And as a visual artist, what excites you about working with sound and sound artists?
Oh wow! It's the first thing is that Kaveh is amazing. He's really skillful in making
Mm.
stuff, and it was ridiculous because like there were so many moments that I was at his studio and I was like, "Could you make a sound like that?" And I made the sound with my mouth, like, "Could you make a sound effect like that?" And then he did it in 5 minutes. He was like, "That's top basic stuff, man. Just you're such a cute kid." And it was ridiculous how he can forge sound. And I think sound has a very specific, very unique feature that sound can communicate an emotion in a very direct way. You don't need to understand the language of sound to get to be influenced by music or sound. It makes the effect right away. It affects you right away. but like, I don't know, animation, music, or sorry, but the visual stuff, painting or animating, you kind of need to know some sort of symbolism, some sort of, you need to have some level of understanding from the visual language to get what's happening. But music is not like that. Music directly speaks to you. And so that was really exciting. And it was also exciting to see how images could become more vivid and lively with music. About the collaboration, I think, if it was like, if it was a year ago and I was painting and you told me let's make something collaboratively, I would have laughed at you, like, but but art is an individual thing, la la. But it was so interesting, collaborating is, it makes everything better. If the two people working are synced, um, it could boost everything. It could be amazing stuff could come out of it. Um, talking about capitalism, society, and socialism, and all these ideas. It was interesting to see that there was a sociality to making this work. Like, you need to socialize with another person, you need to talk to other people. It's not something that you stay in your studio like a painter and paint whatever you like, because when you're in the studio painting, like when I'm in the studio painting, I feel like I've stepped into a physical version of my mind. Like, it's like my mind, and that's why there's a privacy to a studio. But when you're collaborating, you step out, there is a sociality to it.
Yeah, and I think, like, the music adds so much to it, and a kind of different, like you were saying, there's a different kind of instinctual reaction that we have to sound.
Yeah.
But also, I think in kind of collaboration, I think multimedia and those, like, bringing together of mediums, you're speaking in two different ways kind of at the same time. And I think that's really powerful, because I think how we experience everything, we are informed by five senses constantly. So being able to bring that to a piece is really, really exciting.
Oh yeah, it engages the eye even further. So, because there are a lot of, I think the important thing about the music in this piece was that there were a lot of moments that the visuals were crossing the line, getting off the grid way too far. Like, it was becoming, from frustration, it was becoming boring, and the only thing that was getting the whole thing together and keeping you rolling with it was the music. I think the music was kind of balancing that frustration and this and boring feeling that was depicted. So that was a really, so I think Kof did a great job in this.
No, it sounds brilliant. Looking forward to a post-lockdown world, which we're hoping will happen at some point. What are are you still studying in September?
I suspended my MA, the whole cohort suspended. So I'm going back to uni next year, 21, in something around May.
Okay. So, kind of with your masters, I suppose, but also just like with your own practice outside of that, what are your sort of hopes for a world when we're...
Well, generally speaking, not just about my practice, generally speaking, I think this was a very unique experience for all people all around the world. Like, a lockdown means that, like, you're not authorized to leave your home, and you're not authorized to enter specific spaces, and so it's kind of limits your freedom of movement, and it's a very unique way to experience it. And I think this animation with suspense, with this feeling of suspense, was exactly what we were experiencing. That's why everyone was so restless, especially at the beginning of the lockdown, that the prime minister was like, go out but don't go out, do this but don't do this, like it's a
sometimes do that, never do this.
So it's a suspense. You don't know what's happening and what's ahead, and it's so makes everyone so anxious and restless. So I think, and I think there are people who are experiencing this way all through their life. Like, look at what I know asylum seekers who have been waiting for Home Office to come up with a decision about their case for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years is a lifetime.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Yeah, so there are people, or like with the Trump's travel ban, that which included Iran as well. Like, Iranians cannot go to United States, and it's people from, you know, troubled places like Middle East, coming from such places, you know, are facing such situations all through the time. And I think I just hope this situation has taught us a lesson to be more sympathetic and kind of just be kind to each other and try to understand each other. How difficult is life for the others on the other side of the world, and specific, and so that this thing, beside this general idea, beside this general wish, in my practice, I think so I was thinking about my animations as a form of expanded painting. I was thinking about them as a form of, as if my paintings are stretched into the realm of digital media, and I was reflecting on my animations, and I was analyzing them by relying on my knowledge of painting and of histories and traditions of painting. And I think because of this lockdown and because of the flexibility I showed to work on digital stuff, I think it's going to stay with me. I'm going to make more animations and digital arts in the future a lot. I think, yeah. So I think it definitely changed me a lot. Definitely changed me, not just my practice, but generally even my personality.
Yeah, yeah. I think most artists have had to find obviously new ways of working, and I think a lot of that's really valuable because we get stuck in our kind of tracks a lot of the time, and being forced to work in a new way can be really a good thing.
Yeah, it drags you out of your comfort zone. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely. Yes.
Great.
Fantastic.
Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Parham.
Thank you for having me. This was an honor.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day.
Same to you. See you later. Take care.
Bye.